Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 388 of the Embodied Podcast. Today, our guest is Lindsay Marino, and this is another long time conversation coming. I've known Lindsay for years. We did Marie Forleo's B School together back in the day. I'm talking 2011, everybody. And we literally have never had a conversation one-on-one until this podcast interview. Lindsay is a psychic medium and a mentor to other mediums. So she helps psychic mediums deepen their abilities and grow their business so they can bring healing to their clients while they also experience the true freedom of living in their purpose. So we talked about mediumship today, which, if you don't know what mediumship is, it is connecting to people on the other side, people who have passed. And this is something that personally I have no interest in doing. However, during the years that I was doing a ton of Akashic Records readings, sometimes people's loved ones would pop in. And I certainly have had many visits of my own loved ones who have passed throughout the course of my life. My family has all kinds of stories like this, and we get into this in the podcast episode. So if you have any interest in connecting with folks who have passed loved ones from this lifetime, if you are a medium, if you're interested in being a medium, if you just have this ability and have never known what to do with it before, this is going to be a great episode for you. So grab the show notes at untameyourself.com/388 if you want to catch any of the links to anything that we mentioned, if you want to check out Lindsay's work, her website, her social media, or anything like that. And let's get into the show. Hey everyone, I've Lindsay Marino here. And this is I've been doing a lot of these this year, these like long time coming interviews.
Yes.
People
Love
where
that.
I'm like, it's been years in the making and finally you're here. So I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here too.
And Lindsay is a medium. And I'm one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk about this and have this whole conversation with you today is because a couple of years ago, when I started working in the Akashic Records, sometimes people's loved ones would come through. And I would have some really beautiful, there's like a couple distinct ones that are just like singed into my memory. And, but I like kind of made an agreement with my own team. I was like, I do not want to do this, y'all. I was like, I don't mind if it comes through when I'm in the Akashic Records, but please don't make me do this.
It's a different kind of feeling, right? When it's happening.
Yeah. Really interesting. So, but before we dive into all that, this year of the podcast, what I'm loving opening up these conversations with, it's kind of a 3-pronged question. So I hit you with all of it so you can take it in whatever order you want. I've been really enjoying asking people, what do you call God? And what is your relationship with God or whatever you call it? And how do you commune with that? If you even do.
Okay. I love that question. And it's funny because what I consider God now is totally different than what I thought years ago, because I grew up Catholic.
Same.
So you understand, there's a different kind of feeling. And I don't know if it was CCD. I don't know what it was that was instilled in me, but I felt like, oh gosh, if I say, oh my God, or say God's name in vain, or do anything, it was a sin. So I used to be frightened. They say, pray to God, and I would. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I always thought everything was a sin. And now I feel so connected to God. So I would consider God, I feel really close to God because I feel like I'm partly piece of me is part of God too, just like the flowers and nature and, the ocean and everyone else around us is connected to God as one. And with all the readings that I've done, I've noticed that past loved ones that have come through, they talk about the power of praying and to pray to God. Mm-hmm. So I know God is real because I feel it in my heart, but I also have experienced it with receiving readings. And then I've also had a couple experiences while I was sleeping and I went to a heavenly realm with my own past loved ones and felt the feeling of God. And I felt so much unconditional love. It's hard to explain in human terms.
It really is. And this is one of the reasons, and by the way, I have the most intense goosebumps just everywhere as you're saying that, because I don't know if you have this experience, but I mean, I connect with so many unseen beings. And it's like the moment you acknowledge their presence, they acknowledge back in some felt way, is my experience. I'm not going to say that that's everyone's experience, and for me, it's that feeling. It's almost like if they could hug me, they would. And so they're physically letting me know in my body, we're here and we hear you.
Yes.
So I was getting that feeling while you were saying that. This is one of the reasons why I loved working in the Akashic Records so much, because it was like, there's no way I could know.
Yes.
So much like, and probably like people could book a reading when I was doing it just through my website. I didn't know it. Like sometimes people would come and I'd already worked with them, or I was familiar with them from something else. But like the couple of years I was doing that, there were hundreds of people. I had no context for anything about these people. And sometimes the things that would come through would be like, there's absolutely no way I could have possibly known that about this person.
Yes. And it's amazing when it drops in. And like you said, with the goosebumps, that's a thing for me too, that I always have goosebumps, or someone standing with me, or you don't feel alone. And it's interesting because the more you get into this realm, like whether it's doing Akashic Records or I haven't done those, but I've done readings, but through this whole process for me, the more I go deeper into it, the less I don't ever feel alone. I think in the past I probably would have. I can't remember myself back before like my spiritual awakening, but I feel like now I'm like, I know everything's always going to be okay. Like there's going to be stressful moments, but it's all going to be okay. And we're never alone.
Yeah. So, you know what? Let's go back. Let me write. I'm always writing things down. By the way, if you see me look down, it's because I write things down so I can come back. Awesome. I want to come back to not feeling alone.
Yeah.
And there was something else that you just said that I want to make sure we come back to. Oh,
the spiritual awakening.
No, not remembering before.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that, but let me go back. So I know you talked about God feeling connected and everything. And so, how you relate and how you commune with that. What's that like for you right now?
So I feel like right now, actually I did it today. I was driving, I had to drive to pick up my car and it was downpouring. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know how I worded it really. It just came out of my mouth, but I'm like, okay, I'm driving and I'm fine. Just give me the strength to get home and not, I didn't say not worry, but I was just like, I'm okay. And like, I was just having a conversation openly in my car. If anyone saw me, they'd think that I was talking on the phone, but just having an open dialogue and having that conversation. But also during walks in nature, I say how grateful I am. And I just feel like it pours out of my heart. So not just when I need something, but also the feeling of presence. I think that it's a feeling and it's being present. And that's been one of my prayers is leave presence wherever I go. And the way that I can leave presence is to be present with the people that I'm communicating with.
I love
and that always hasn't been always easy for me, because it's really easy to be human and not be present all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just want to like close off and be like, all right, enough is enough for today.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. This is beautiful. So let's come back to this, not remembering before. So one of the things I have realized over the course of time, especially because I had two kind of medical situations in the last 2 years. I had my gallbladder removed in the beginning of this year. And the year before that, just right before Christmas, I fell and hit my head in the bathroom at night. I like tripped and fell, knocked myself out. Like I had a black eye for the like Christmas 2020. Couldn't go see my family. I'm on FaceTime and they're all upset because I have this black eye. And
oh my gosh.
It was funny. Have you ever watched the show 30 Rock?
Yes, I have. I don't watch it regularly, but I've watched it.
Okay. So I don't know if you ever saw the episodes where like Liz Lemon is always afraid that she's going to like hurt herself or choke or something because she lives alone. Okay. And I was like cracking up, believe it or not. I wake up from like being knocked out on my own bathroom floor. And I'm like, I just had a Liz Lemon moment. Like it was like 3:00 in the morning. I couldn't wait to like text my brother in the morning when he would be awake. And so I could tell him because we love that show.
Oh my gosh.
You're right.
We should got humor out of it.
I can't help myself. I'm a weirdo like that. But
no, that's good too.
After both of those things, it was like my psychic gifts, abilities, everything I see, sense, hear, whatever, became sharper.
Wow.
And so one of the things I was thinking about is like, I'm pretty sure I've always been this way. I just didn't know. I didn't realize what the information I was picking up was, or that wasn't happening for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering for you, I mean, you mentioned a spiritual awakening. What was the like coming online like for you? Because I know some people who from a very young age are like, I was tapping in since I was 3 years old. And I'm like, I think I was unknowingly, but I can't tell you for sure.
No, that makes complete sense actually, because some of the students that come to me, they're like, I kind of blocked out my childhood. Sometimes they don't remember anything from the childhood of tapping in. For me, it was almost like I had to go back into my childhood after I had that pivotal moment in my life. It was in 2007. But looking back on it, I used to think that I was having flying dreams, but they were actually outer body experiences. And then I was collecting, and I'm putting in quotes like rocks, but now I know that they're crystals. And then I'd be giving advice to people when I was young, but really it was intuitive guidance. And I was an observer and shy, but really I was just empathic and felt everyone's emotions. So I didn't really and I also was scared of the dark because I felt like people were standing over me, but I thought it was just scary in my room. I didn't think that it was past loved ones that I was feeling either.
Okay. The scared of the dark thing, which I know a lot of kids have this. I literally, that is something I do remember is feeling like there actually was something in the room with me. And it wasn't until in 2012, when I got my first Reiki attunement, like there have been these series of things that have just like made me aware of my own sensitivities, you know? And I remember after my first Reiki attunement, or maybe the second one, because I had them relatively close together, starting to realize, oh, like, this isn't just a weird something in my head. Like I am actually feeling, because I get the goosebumps, like when there's a presence, I do feel it. And I was like, oh, that I have certainly been feeling my whole life. But again, when you're a kid, you have no context for that. And no one's like, oh, well, maybe you're feeling beings that are in that.
I know. No, it's so true. And sometimes, you know, at the beginning, people are like, well, should I be seeing? Should I be hearing voices? Should I be feeling? They don't know how it's coming in, but it doesn't, there's no right or wrong way to it.
Right.
So when I first started developing the mediumship, like connecting in with past loved ones, I thought I should be hearing voices all the time.
Right.
Like I was trying to develop it. And at that point, and by the way, at that point, I was shut down from my feelings. Like I didn't want to feel anything. So I was like, well, I'm not really feeling anything. I think I know it, but unless someone confirmed it, I wasn't for sure. So you start to second guess it when you don't get the feeling, you know, when it comes in.
And let me also ask you this, because I noticed this, and I keep making the comparison only because it's, you know, it's the context I have, but I just see so many similarities. When I was I did a couple different trainings in the Akashic Records, and everyone does receive differently.
Yes.
I mean, there's a couple different ways, but not everyone's ways will be the same. And some people have access to more than one way. Sometimes it depends on the person. Is it the same?
Totally. Yes. So one of the things that I always share is you can fine tune each of the ways. So at the beginning, like I was more clairvoyant where I would see images and symbols in my mind's eye, like it would be like a daydream. And I kept doing that for a while. And I was like, okay, I'm seeing an apple, but what does the apple mean? Like, how can I go deeper with the apple that I'm being shown from like a past loved one?
Yeah.
And I kept wanting to open up and feel more, but I wasn't feeling and I didn't get it. And what I always share that's so important, whether it's Akashic Records, you could probably relate to this too, is it's a mirror for us, for our personal life. So like when I was only seeing, it was because I was numbed out with feelings and I didn't want to feel anything. So I wasn't feeling the spirit realm when I wanted to feel them. And I'm like, oh, well, if I want to be a better medium in that way, even though people were enjoying their readings, I felt like something was missing. I needed to tune into my feelings for my personal life. So it literally is a mirror for us. So you can fine tune any of, you know, the ways.
This makes so much sense that you got to clear out your filter one way or another, right? You're
exactly
an instrument and a channel.
Yes.
And the image I always get whenever I think about this is or like the Drano or like the liquid plumber commercials where it has all the gunk and then you put the stuff in and it goes away. And I'm like, that's really what it is. And all of our energy work and our spiritual practices and feeling our feelings and having our tough conversations and setting our boundaries is just,
it is so true.
Keeping that damn drain clear.
It's so true. And sometimes it could get distracting because we're humans too. But then at the
Right.
same time, when we're giving these messages to our clients, if we have a filter to see things one way and we're like giving a message for someone, just say like they're in a relationship or they're having a difficult time with a parent, it's easy to put our human mind into that
Mhm.
if we don't like become clear and kind of separate from that. So kind of like what you're saying, it's so true. It's a process, you know?
So this is interesting that you're saying that. What this is making me think of is over the years, like I enjoy doing readings with people. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever actually had a mediumship reading, but
Hmm.
I enjoy doing readings with people. And in the last couple of years, there was someone that I did a couple readings with, and way after the fact, I realized that person was not doing a good job of getting themselves out of the way.
Okay. And you can feel it too, right?
And you know what? At the time, I didn't, because I was in a place where I was kind of like distracted and had so much going on.
Yeah.
But then much later, because I listened to the guidance and it did not serve me. And, as spiritual people, we can sometimes be like, well, then that's what needed to happen because I got the lesson. Like, yes, but I shouldn't have
Yeah.
fucking listened to that advice.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah, sometimes you find out the hard way later. And
Totally.
it's one of those things too, like if someone comes to me for an intuitive reading, I always say at the beginning, I'm going to give you what I get, but also just know that you have to follow your own intuition too, but I'm going to tell you what
Totally.
I'm seeing.
1000%.
And, of course, I'm going to give them the evidence that's coming forward. But if someone says this is the only way you can do it, then like, okay, I'm not going to listen to that because
Yeah.
there's not only one way, but there will be pieces of evidence that kind of show you two different paths too.
Yeah. And the free will is real.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So
Totally.
I want to ask you something else. Because I stopped doing Akashic Records readings. And one of the reasons was, and it's cool because you were raised Catholic. So, and you
Hmm.
had that like sin thing in the back of your mind. So you really have the
Yes.
context for this.
Hmm.
After, especially in the pandemic, after a while, I'm like, I get why priests, that's just such a hard job because they're listening to confessions year
True.
in and year out, right? People are coming and telling them the stuff that they don't say to anybody else and that they judge themselves the most for.
That
That's
is very
hard
true.
to
Yeah.
receive that. I was like, by the way, I'm not like excusing priests, any bad behavior. I'm just saying what an
Yeah.
intense thing to hold for a career. Because literally after
Yeah.
2019, 2020, 2021, after like 3 years, I was like, that's enough of that for me.
Yeah.
It's so intense.
It's interesting because I feel like people have been kind of altering what they've wanted to do in these past like 2 to 3 years. I feel like that's what it's like. Your soul knows when something needs to change, but it
Yeah.
is true that can happen. And it's funny because I forget a lot of my readings, and I
Yeah.
think that can happen sometimes for ourselves too, because like you said, like holding on to that information and being told something that maybe nobody knows except the person that gave you the information or the past loved one that came through to share it. So, and that comes back like the Drano, like you said, it's like, okay, I need to take care of my physical body and my emotional self because of
Totally.
all of this.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
It's a lot, but and it's such an honor. It's just so moving. Like,
Yeah.
I'm certainly a recovering empath. I don't really hold
Hmm.
on to other people's, and I certainly don't like mesh with other people's energy
Yeah.
anymore, but just bearing witness. Cause like you, I usually don't remember a lot of what happens in people's readings, but,
Right.
there was just something about day in and day out bearing
Yeah.
witness to all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I think it was probably just more intense during the pandemic because people were more stressed and more afraid of a lot of things. But I was like, my heart is too tender for this.
No, that makes sense. And it's funny that you're
A lot
saying
of
this because
exposure.
I know. And I actually changed the amount of private readings that I do each day because of the past like year or two. I had done the reading. I don't know if it's been like almost 10 years of doing like 4 readings each day for like 3 days out of the week
Yeah.
about that. And at one point I kind of took a moment, like, I don't know if I was on, it could have been summer vacation where I take like less clients. And I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? I like the feeling of this. Like I need a
Yeah.
little bit less, especially when I'm teaching, my mediumship students and doing that. And I think it was actually around this time, like you're sharing that, okay, I need some space too, because
Yeah.
I want to be recharged for them, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
And and I'm sure you have this experience as well. I never want to feel dread before I get on a call with somebody. And that's how I could
exactly.
always tell when I'm like, okay, I've been doing I got to cut back a little bit.
Yes. That's a perfect sign. Totally.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. What else? So I'm curious. I'm sure you do interviews and stuff on both ends, right?
Hmm.
You interview people
Yes.
and you
Yes.
get interviewed. Is there anything that like people never ask you that you're always kind of like, I don't know why no one asks me this?
That's a that's a really good question. Let me think. Yeah, some people ask me similar questions. I mean, you've asked me a lot of different questions. Maybe like my hobbies, like nobody really asks like what I
Yeah.
like
What
to
else do
do
you do?
and
This is great.
because I'm not just a medium, even though
Yeah,
like when
you're a
you go
whole
for an
person.
interview, yes. So I really like to do things like I set things up for like the list of things I want to do before reaching heaven. I started that whole thing in 2007.
Oh, you call it that.
Yes. And so I've done, I'm not going to skydiving again. I don't need to because I did it once, but like stuff like that, like I will go skydiving. I went bungee jumping before that list started, hot air balloon riding, road trips. Like I love taking road trips and seeing different places. I love reading. I love being outside nature. I love painting too.
Ooh,
And just for fun, just doing creative things. I love being with my nieces and my
yeah.
nephews. Kids are my little people. Like I feel very connected to children because I feel like they're so sensitive and
Yes.
they're heightened. So
Yeah.
I just get a kick out of talking to kids. And I was a third grade teacher too.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
yes, for 7 years, actually, I was a third grade teacher. So my little kids were like my little angels, you know?
Oh,
Yeah. So those are the types of things that I really like doing. I like having that break in between, like
yeah.
I'm putting quotes like the medium, because when you're the something, there's like an attachment to that. It's like if a hairdresser goes to a party, you don't want to be asked to, ask them to cut your hair. You know
Right.
what I mean?
You
Like
don't want to
some
be like, do
days,
I have split ends?
right, exactly. So when I'm someplace, I'm like, I just want to be, I
That
just want to hang out
person.
and enjoy.
Yes. Yes. Because that's kind of the next thing off of what you're just saying. I was going to ask you, what is that like? I, this
Yeah.
is something I think about all the time. When you do any kind of healing work, the minute you say you do that,
I know.
people will be like, what are you getting from me? Like you were saying,
Yes.
I asked for anyone, just to give you context before the interview, I like to ask people, is there anything you don't want me to ask you? And Lindsay said, sometimes people will ask me to like do a reading on the spot. And I'm like, don't
Yeah.
worry, I'm not going to ask you to do that. I have boundaries. But
Yes.
that also feels like the type of thing, like at a party that people will be like, what are you getting from me right now? And you're like,
Yes.
I'm having fucking cheese and crackers. Like, leave me alone.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because at the beginning of this whole process, like, first of all, when I was learning about this, I remember doing it to someone. She wasn't a medium, like she wasn't paid to get a medium, but I heard she could connect in with past loved ones. And I had lost someone, my boyfriend at the time. And I'm like, are you seeing him around me? Are you getting anything? And I remember her saying, oh, well, I don't know if I'm really that good. I don't know if I can get that much information. And I was like begging her. And I'm like, okay, now I know what not to do. I would never do that now, but at the time I didn't know. And at the beginning of my mediumship, I wanted to practice. So when they said, what do you do? I would say mediumship. And then they say, what are you picking up? And I was able to practice with them.
Oh, that's
Now
good.
yeah, at the time it was, but at the same time, it was like having that balance that maybe I needed at that point. But now when people ask me, I just say like, I really don't open up. When I'm just talking to someone, I stay kind of present with them,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to tap into anyone's energy, of course, without permission, but I'll say like at another point, if you want to set up a reading or something, but
Yeah.
it is part of like those expectations that now I know that if I'm
Yeah.
going to, be with my clients, I need to give them my full energy. I can't be like given readings 24/7
Yeah,
when
totally.
I'm not doing that
And
for my clients.
And the thing that I see being like distinctly different that I just feel so much compassion for if they're asking a medium is, it's different when you've lost someone and
Yeah.
you just are dying in some way, shape, or form to feel connected again, or to know that they're okay, or to have any information that you might feel like you didn't get before they were gone. Like, that makes sense to
Right.
me that people might almost feel desperate to be like, please tell me if you see any,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
beautiful. And you still got to have boundaries.
Exactly. So like in a situation like that, I might say, I just want you to know that like if you keep on talking to them, they do hear you. Like no
Yeah.
matter who's passed, like they're still alive. You just might not see them in the same way, but just know that they are listening and they are around you. So but that has been a process, with that, because so much changes over the course of, this development and like the spirituality. It's like you kind of learn like when people kind of break through the boundaries, that I feel like if someone breaks your boundaries, you didn't have clear expectations. It's really more about me, and it kind of
Yeah.
reprograms me and thinks like, I think, what can I do to change that?
Yeah. I love that. I love a good preventive boundary. Like,
Yes,
have the boundary before you even need to set one,
exactly.
Okay. Something you just said made me think of something I'm so excited to ask you specifically.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things we hear about, the afterlife and what happens. And there's this term, the bardo, which is like the 40 days after someone passes. And, we grow up Catholic, you hear about purgatory. And, my family for years was afraid that my grandpa was in purgatory because he was like still around. He was so around, like we would call them pop visits. And this is also what was entertaining to me. As Catholic as my family is, they're very mystical people. Like my dad's been getting visits. His grandmother passed away. His brother passed away. Like my dad's had some real, like a Yankees hat flew across the room and he knew it was his brother. Like some real cool shit. And it's just totally normal. And like my grandpa, even years after he passed, sometimes we would just smell his pipe. He used to smoke a specific pipe. Like my mom's car would like fill up with the pipe smoke, and she'd be like, "Oh, my dad's here," and she'd be like having a conversation with my grandpa. But you also hear these things that wanting so badly to stay connected to a soul who has passed prevents them from moving on in whatever way they need to. So I'm curious, from your perception, experience, what you teach or whatever, is that true? Is that not true? Like, what happens?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that actually happened to me. So the boyfriend his name is Nick, that passed from me, I was grieving him for, you're always grieving. It never goes away. But I was really in a tough spot with him for like deep grief for like 3-4 years in deep grief. And everyone kept saying, let him rest. The people that were uncomfortable with it, like they didn't know how to handle that I was still communicating and that sort of thing. They said, let him rest. There were some people that said that. Some people said it openly, and other people probably kept it to himself and thought, this girl is getting a little crazy and she needs to make sure that he rests. But what I realized with all these readings that I've done is they're not stuck. Just because they're hanging around and they're checking in on us doesn't mean that they can't go to the space, to that heavenly realm. They actually kind of bounce back and forth. Like when you think of someone, like the moment you brought up your grandfather, it's like you brought him into the existence. Like you kind of called him in that moment. And it's so beautiful because it's like they pop in,
Yeah.
and that is a beautiful thing, that energy can't be broken. So just because the physical body isn't here, doesn't mean they can't be, popping around to different places. But what I found, no matter how they've died, no matter how, quote, bad of a person they were, like if someone killed someone, they've still gone to heaven. I've never seen anyone in my readings go to hell. And I used to believe in hell. When it came to suicide, I know that's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
I've connected with people that's happened. They've committed suicide and they still come through. You might feel with like tragic deaths, if it was something that was an accident or suicide, you might feel them come through really, really strong because they want you to know that they're okay. And then someone that maybe was sick with an illness, it's more of like they're around, but you might not feel them like right here in the same way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and so this is part of it because my grandma, who was quite a bit more pious and kind than my grandpa,
Yep.
we'll put it that way. When she passed, we really, for the most part, didn't feel Graham around. And so that kind of validated the family story that Pop was stuck in purgatory and Graham just got to move on, you know?
Yes.
But it's funny. I've had more experiences with my grandmother than anybody else. And the coolest thing happened, you'll probably appreciate this. Actually, two things. I was supposed to be in Japan. I was supposed to go on a trip to Japan. And this was like April of 2016. And a couple of weeks before the trip, I was meditating. And I just got this very strong sense, like, do not go on that trip.
Wow.
I was like, it was so strong. I canceled the trip. I was like, I'm not going.
Oh my gosh.
And because I don't mess around with that. I get an intuitive like that. I'm like, hell no, I'm not
going to trust it.
Where my mind goes, I'm like, that plane is going to crash. Like whatever. I'm like, I can't go.
Yeah.
My grandma died when I would have been there.
Oh my gosh. I have goosebumps everywhere.
My grandma died when I would have been there. So how much easier was it to get back to the East Coast from San Diego than if I would have been in Japan? But also that night, like the night she passed, she was in my dream and she was in my brother's dream. And my grandma had been sick. She'd had many strokes. She had dementia. She really was not like her for a couple of years before she died. She was in a nursing home. She was in like all the things, you know, like she was had been gone for a while. And it was one of those things where you're like, why is she even still here? You know?
Yes.
And, she was in both of our dreams and she was like the Graham we grew up with, you know? And it was so, because I remember I was telling my brother, I'm like, yo, I had a dream about Graham last night. And she was just laughing and like, she was her old self. And he was like, shut the fuck up. So did I. And I'm like, she let us know she's okay.
That is amazing. Yeah. I have goosebumps from head to toe again.
It was beautiful.
This is beautiful. And it's amazing that the two of you talked to each other and shared that you had the dream at the same time, because a lot of the times they will come through to more than one person at the same time or show you multiple signs around the same time.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Quick break in the show for a really, really exciting announcement. I am about to reboot my old Unconsume Yourself course and teach it for free from May 19th to June 8th. So if you are a person who could use a little mental and emotional detox to reset your nervous system, simplify your life, and find some friggin' peace after everything we've all been through in the last 2 years, plus the rest of our lives, then go to untameyourself.com/detox. What you're going to get with the course is 3 live modules and recording access, a bonus Q&A session, and a bunch of embodiment tools and practices, an inner peace meditation, journaling prompts, helpful mantras to help regulate your thoughts and emotions, a wild soul movement class, an erotic body class. And I'm also going to be doing some giveaways during the free course. So again, if that all sounds like something you could use in your life, head on over to untameyourself.com/detox.
And it's making me think of something that just happened too, because my grandma passed last year. Last year. I think it was last year. Oh my God, this goes by. The last year feels like it's been like 5 years.
So weird.
But I was doing mediumship readings because I practice with a group of mediums. We're always practicing. And my grandmother came through a couple of days ago on Tuesday. And then the next day, my sister said she found a video of my grandmother with my niece, which is her daughter. And all of a sudden a random toy went off and said, Jesus loves me. And she always sang. And so it all happened at the same time. I'm like, well, she just came through the reading and then the toy went off and the picture came up on her phone. And this is what they do, to be really bold, to let you know that they're around, they're okay. And I love it.
I love that. It's so
So
cool.
beautiful.
And I saw it. You had a Facebook post today about someone who was getting rainbow signs from a past, was it her sister or something?
Yes. So I gave a reading the other day. It was a phone reading to someone. And I forget a lot of my readings, like I said, but when she mentioned the rainbow thing, I'm like, I remember saying that. But she said, when her sister came through, she said, pay attention to the rainbows. Well, a couple of days later, or that week or something, she spotted this rainbow on the ground. She doesn't have any crystals in the window, nothing. It was just, and she said it faded. It went from like light to all of a sudden very bright. And when I saw the picture, I had goosebumps from head to toe. And I'm like, wait, was there a crystal outside the window? And she's like, no, it was just the sun shining in. This has never happened before. So I said, whether it was something that was reflecting in at that moment, or it was heavenly, heavenly colors that were right there, either way, they're nudging you to see it. But it was something that was so vivid and bright that I just felt this overwhelming feeling of love. And it was beautiful. And her sister kept saying, I'm not dead. Her sister, the funny thing is they all went, there were 3 of them that came to my Messages from Heaven event, like an audience event years ago. So they were all sitting in the audience, and the sister that was sitting in the audience passed. So I actually met her in person before.
Wow.
Quickly. But so when she was coming through, she was pretty blunt, and she told me to tell her sister, I'm not dead, like very clearly, I'm not dead. And she said when she saw the rainbow, she felt like it was just a reminder of that message that I'm still here,
I love that.
Yes.
I love it so much. Thank you for indulging my desire to like tell some stories and share some things here, because if anyone's still listening, even if they're skeptical, they're open.
Right. Yes.
But, and this is also one of my favorite things, because and I think I read this, I'm sure you've heard of this woman. I think her name is Laura Lynn Jackson. I think she's written like 2 different books.
That
Signs
sounds
is one of them, The Secret Language.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've seen that book.
I never even made it all the way through that book, but I mean, and you're a medium and you do a lot of teaching and training and stuff like this. So I'm sure nothing is probably new to you, but I love these stories. I love hearing of like the myriad, like endless ways that people's loved ones who have passed reach out to them and connect. Like, and even my grandpa, I never smelled the pipe.
Yeah.
But I would get, he used to bring me when I was little Hershey bars all the time. So truly every once in a while, there's just a Hershey bar wrapper.
Oh my gosh.
On the sidewalk. It happened. The last time it happened is when I was moving to Oakland and I was there looking at places, and I went to this one place and there was a Hershey wrapper there. And I was like, my God, like he's just with me. And he really is my protector. I have all these other stories about my grandpa protecting me over the years, which is hilarious. But whenever I need something, he's the one.
It's beautiful. And it's funny because they will nudge you to see, because he knows that you would recognize that sign. So he'll keep on doing that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of set up.
It's so intelligent too. That's my favorite part.
I know.
Like, they know what will get your attention.
They do. They do. And I love that story. And also water can be manipulated. I've had an experience actually in bacon grease, which sounds kind of weird. But no, literally I know that's such a random thing.
Oh, random.
So I was walking downstairs. Actually, me and my husband were talking or walking down the stairs. And the night before, we should have put the pan, we should have cleaned the pan the night before, but we didn't. Like, we had bacon and it was on foil. Mm-hmm. And as I was walking down the stairs, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I almost like lost my breath. And it was Nick, who was mutual friends with my husband, the one that passed, my boyfriend that had passed. It was his face. The whole outline of his face was in the bacon grease. And I'm like, Tony, you have to see this. And I was like, and it was either on his birthday or there was an anniversary that week. And so just so people know, and it sounds crazy, and I used to be a skeptic. I used to be a skeptic, actually, when people tried to drag me to a psychic. I'm like, I don't believe it. And I was very tough on the psychic when I went to. So if you're listening and you're not open, that's totally fine. Like, I feel like the big thing is just to share the messages, and whoever it's meant to get to, it will. Exactly. But water, anything, they will manipulate different things to show you that they're around, in so many different ways. And sometimes it's as simple as telepathic thoughts where you think of them and you're like, oh, I could see my grandfather saying this, but really it's his presence by you putting it in your mind. So it might not just be visual. It could be the
Totally.
thought that drops in.
Yeah. Ah, it's so
So
fun.
it's
Um,
amazing.
and what is it like? I'm so curious when people come to your trainings. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's a range, but I would imagine some people it's because they're like freaking out about these experiences they're having and they don't know what to do about it.
Yes.
And then I imagine some people are just so either like what we were talking about earlier, desperate to connect with people who have passed, or just
Yep.
so freaking curious, right?
Those actually perfect describing of them. Those are the three reasons they come to me. They're either really intrigued. They're like, I don't know if I can do this. I know I'm intuitive and I sense things, but I don't even know if I could do the mediumship thing. Or they've lost someone and they want to connect in with them. That's how I started. And then the other thing is like they want to take these experiences that they're getting and they want to understand like why all of a sudden is everything getting louder for me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the big misconception too is that not everyone is a medium, because for me personally, and this would go against the common mediumship things that mediumship mentors say, is not everyone can do it, but I actually believe that it's just like fine tuning, like a musical thing for yourself. Like if you want to learn the piano, you take lessons. Like maybe you don't have an ear for music when you're growing up, but you can develop it if you want to. It depends on how bad you want it.
I'm with you. I believe that about all psychic gifts and skills. I
Yes.
think I say this all the time. I'm like, I'm sure some of us, I think, are more inclined to
Right.
certain things, and some things will certainly come more easily to us than others. And a lot of that
Yeah.
I attribute to either ancestral gifts and medicine that they're like
Hmm.
wanting you that like you could just tap into that stream, or
Yes.
it's you've done it in past lives. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like,
I believe in that.
no reason why I should just be able to do this.
Yeah. And, right now with everything in the world, everything's opening up. Like people
Big
are
time.
coming in and they're like, I'm feeling like I'm observing all these things and I want to understand what is happening. So even the children coming in are highly sensitive. Like if a kid says something to you, listen, because they are like little messengers, very in tuned.
Yeah. How does that work? I actually had this, and I can't remember. I don't think it was around mediumship, but I had a mother come for an Akashic Records reading at some point during the pandemic. I don't remember when, because her kid was having these experiences, and
Hmm.
her co-parent was very concerned, and they were going the route of like getting her checked out psychologically.
Yeah.
And this mom was like, I just know in my bones that my child is just very sensitive and very psychic.
Yes.
And it was interesting. And we tapped in around that. And I do remember I had referred her to a friend because I'm like,
Hmm.
certainly everything feels like it's more sensitive and serious when it involves a child. So I'm curious for
Totally.
you. I mean, that must happen to you. Yeah.
Yes, totally. Like everything that you're sharing, it makes sense and it's amazing that the mother sensed that, wait, there's something to this. It's not something to be concerned about, because some mothers will come contact and say like, my child can't sleep at night, or my child feels like there's someone standing there, or they see them, or they feel something's moving. One of the things that I always suggest is putting them at ease, knowing that even though it's an unknown feeling, they're not there to hurt you. Because it
Mhm.
feels unknown, it feels scary. Like when I first started this, I'm like, oh, I don't want anything bad to happen to me. Like, will I open something up that's from a different place, a dark place? What
Right.
I realized, giving like thousands of readings, everything is so connected with love that it's a beautiful experience. But when it's unknown, it feels uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I think having the parents like just let them journal or draw pictures or give them an outlet or resources to know that they're not alone, and to honor it, not block it out. Because a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, as a child, I had this gift or this ability and I looked like I was crazy because I had an imaginary friend. And then they shut down. They're like, now I want to see spirit, like I was
Right.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm thinking of one of my old clients who that was her experience. So
Hmm.
interesting how it all works. And depending on like
Yes.
family or your environment or like who might encourage it, who might just tell you like you're crazy and whatever. And then with the
Right.
path that puts you on as an adult to reconnect, should you ever want to.
Yeah, because you always come back to what you're meant to do. Like
Yeah.
it always comes back to you some way or another.
So
So,
this I'm really curious about. Um, I have so many women in my community, clients over the years who just do like regular jobs, like
yeah.
someone might work at a bank, someone might work in marketing, someone might work, they do. And I say regular, I don't say that in any kind of disparaging way, but
Yeah.
not a place where being a psychic or a medium would be like on the job description. And
Right.
so I'm wondering, the people who come through your trainings, is it more often than not, or is it what's kind of the mix of people who are like, I want to do this professionally and just, I want to be able to understand this, use this skill, have this skill or whatever?
That's a good question. I've had like people that are in like finance and accounting corporate jobs come in and they feel that feeling of, I know that I'm sensitive to something and I'm intrigued and I want to do this. Other people might be a coach
Mm,
or they might be a psychic, but they want to pick up mediumship information.
yeah.
Or who else have I had? I've had nurses. I've had a lot of massage therapists, hairdressers,
I
because
bet
they're hands on,
all the time.
um, I was a third grade teacher, so I have a lot of teachers that come to me too. Really, like every walk of life there is. Now, sometimes they'll come in just because they're interested, but then they leave and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I think that I'm supposed to do this for a living." Other people aren't sure, but they just want to investigate it, and there's no pressure to decide at that moment. But yeah, there is a big mix of people that
That's
have
great.
that sense inside of them.
And I asked that in case anyone listening is like, "Ooh, I'm curious, but that's not
Right.
for me because dot dot dot." Like it could be for anyone.
Literally,
You're
it
not
can be.
obligated to do anything with it other than
Totally. And it changes their life. Like I always say, like before you take the class, I just want you to know that your life is going to change. You're going to notice things fall away and things come in because it's a journey where you want to be able to have a support or like a group with you because it feels, when you tell someone all of a sudden you're given mediumship readings or you're picking up information, you will at the first class, you'll feel something. When you go and tell some people, they might think that you're crazy or like, wait, where is this coming from? You're going to hear that. You're going to, just like any other
yeah,
thing that you're learning, you're going to have people that believe in it and other people that are like, who do you think you are? So
totally.
that can happen too.
Um, I'm curious about this. And I'm actually, as I'm thinking of it, I'm realizing this is just something I've never even known about mediumship. Is it always people who the person has known in this life? Or do they ever
Yeah.
get like way back, like ancestors?
Oh my God. It's funny that you're asking this question because this has been the theme the past 2 years for me.
Oh, wow.
Well, so people are doing like the genealogy, those tests,
Yeah.
and those people are coming through. Like I'm getting sometimes like their names will come up or like a description. They're like, this is really weird. I didn't know this person, but I've been doing some research and I've been like doing research on this person specifically. Um, Another situation happened. I can tell you a quick story if you want to hear about
Yeah.
that kind of. Okay. So I was doing a reading. Now, I don't remember the details. I just know because someone wrote back to me and told me after the reading. But I guess during her reading, her mother that had passed, like a family member, said, you need to go and take a test, like figure out the genealogy because there's someone that you haven't met yet that you don't know about. Well, she ended up doing it and she found out she had a sister that she didn't know about, went to fly there, and her sister, she was sick. So she was dying soon after, but she got to meet her sister and the whole family. Now they're all connected.
That's amazing.
So it's amazing that the past loved ones can show you that. Other times, like if healers come to me, and a lot of mediums come to me for mediumship readings,
Makes sense.
and their people that they never got to meet will share that they're working with them in the
Mm,
healing sense, or they want them to incorporate certain like herbs or whatever it is.
yeah.
So I do have a mix of that. I've noticed more so come up more recently.
This is fun. So I might get emotional when I say this, but so I've never had, I was telling you earlier, I've never had a mediumship reading. And even before I was talking to you, cause I'm like, I think I kind of just like want to do a reading with Lindsay. I've felt that way for a very long time, but I'm a person who I can have an idea, but until I'm like clear on why,
Yeah.
I'm not just going to like do something for shits and giggles, you know?
Yes.
But, my great grandmother on my dad's side, who was born in Puerto Rico, was Taino. And so she had the indigenous lineage, and it's funny because my mom brought her up today because my mom asked me how my plants were. I love plants, and I've just always had like a natural knack for taking care of plants, even though we never had plants in my house growing up. My mom's mom, we always joked that she had a black thumb because she would like kill everything. But she was good. It's funny, good at gardening, but not good with indoor plants.
Okay.
And my mom was reminding me, Mama is what we called my dad's grandmother, because she was actually alive until I was a senior in high school. So I had a great grandmother for quite a long time. She said, Mama had the green thumb in your ancestry. That's where you get that from. And I've thought so many times, like I actually have remorse around, because like Puerto Rico was obviously colonized and my family was so Catholic. So she had this indigenous, and she would like I asked my dad, like, can you remember? Like, did she teach you any of these things? Did she talk about it? And he was like, no, she just had her little like healing remedies and stuff here and there, but it wasn't like witchy or magic or anything. And I was like, that's what you think.
Yes,
so
exactly.
There's always been a part of me that has been remorseful since I became interested in these things, about not knowing to ask her stuff when she was still here. So even as we've been having this conversation, and it's funny because my ancestor altar is here. I actually have a picture of her. Just
Precious.
sitting right here from when I was little.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to book a reading because now I know why. I'm like, that's what it is. Like, I just want to know like what, because I get, this is something of being like a multi-ethnic mixed race person that I'm like, I literally have so many lineages. There's so much different, like medicine. I started doing ancestral healing a couple of years ago. I'm always like, y'all, what do you want me to work with? Because there's so much to sift through, but I'm like, oh, duh, I could ask.
That's amazing. And so when you were saying that, like, I felt the goosebumps again too. And like, so when you're watering those plants, like the next time you do it, you could literally say like, hey, okay. And imagine, where are you where is she standing with you?
Yeah. Cool.
Amazing. I love that you found that out. And I actually can relate to that in a lot of ways too, because I wish that I asked my family members before they passed different things that I didn't get to ask. But now you can ask them just in a different way. It will pop in your mind. You'll find the answers. So it's amazing.
I love that. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish that you were hoping I would have, or that makes sense to add to the conversation?
I loved it. And I feel like we covered so much and it flew by for me. So,
okay, good.
I love it.
That's always how it is. We always like bounced around, but let me just double check. I think we came back to, everything that I wanted to ask you. We talked about, so we don't have to worry about where our grief is preventing our loved ones from moving into the next realm.
You don't have to worry about that at all.
About that. And
the relationship continues, which is beautiful. You can build on it.
And you know what I also love, because actually this has come through in a lot of people's Akashic Records readings, when difficult people in their lives have passed, that is like, you now have an opportunity to have a completely different relationship with that person.
It's so true.
From that human experience.
Yes. Because they don't hold on to those negative emotions. Like, if there was any difficulty, they see the bigger picture. So you can write a letter to them or have that continued relationship. I found a lot of that in the readings where they feel like they could kind of breathe a little bit to know that they're not upset with them, or whatever happened is put behind them.
Oh, you know what? I did just remember the other thing. What about, do you ever go to like, does someone ever come to you like, I want to connect with so-and-so and it's not available?
Okay. So that's a good question. People always are locked in on connecting in with one or two people. And I always say, I'm going to open up to see who's here first.
Yeah.
So I'll see who's there. There might be a group of them. That person may come in. Sometimes other people come in first.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that it's very easy to get locked in on one person. And sometimes it is the stepdad that they didn't get along with that needs to come in to say sorry before, a grandmother or something.
Yeah.
So I believe that they're always available. As mediums, we might not pick up on them all the time, So it's like, you have to like consciously, I'll say like, is this who you're wanting to connect in with? And they're like, yes, but I was hoping for someone else too. I'll kind of open up and see who else is here. And,
So do you sometimes sift through? I mean, I'm sure I almost like don't even want to say it because you've probably heard it so much, but I always go to that damn scene in Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, I know.
And like,
I love that movie.
The crowded room full of people being like, not you. We're looking for so-and-so.
Exactly. And I usually say, don't tell me any info about whoever you want to hear from. But sometimes if we're at the tail end of the reading and they're like, well, if blah, blah, blah is here, then I'll say, okay, let me see if I can pick them up. But I usually don't like to know anything. But if I have to see what comes up from that, then I will open up and see what comes forward.
So cool. So amazing. So anyone listening, I hope that was inspiring or gave you some clarity. You can go check out Lindsay's website. We're going to put links to everything in the show notes. Is there any place else? Is there a specific place on social media you like for people to follow you?
Really Facebook, Lindsay Marino, or Instagram, Lindsay Marino Medium.
Cool.
That would be perfect.
Great.
I'm so thankful that you had me on the show. I love
Thank you so
talking
much.
with you.
It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you.